All right, let's dive into something that's, well, absolutely critical for any building project. How do you take that amazing design you have in your head and turn it into a set of plans that the building department will actually say yes to? You know the feeling, right? You've got this perfect vision for a new home. Every detail is crystal clear in your mind. But then there's this giant gap between that idea and actually breaking ground. That gap? It's filled with plans, paperwork, and a whole lot of rules. So, let me introduce you to the hero of our story, construction documents. I love how the monograph guide puts this. They're literally the directions from the architect to the contractor. Think of them as the ultimate recipe book that tells the builder exactly how to turn that design into a real, physical building. So here's our game plan. We're going to go from the big picture dream to that permit. We'll break down what a plan set really is, learn the language of blueprints, walk through the drawings you absolutely have to have, and then, my favorite part, we'll get into some insider tips for getting that stamp of approval. Okay, let's start the journey. The whole key here is to stop thinking of this as a bunch of annoying hurdles. Instead, see it as a clear path with clear steps that takes you right from your idea to having that permit in your hand. So what's actually in a plan set? What are we talking about here? Well, it really just boils down to two key ingredients. And once you understand these two, the whole thing starts to make a lot more sense. So on one hand, you've got the drawings. This is the visual stuff. It shows what goes where. But then you have the specifications or specs. This is all the written info that describes how to build it and with what materials. It's like a cookbook, right? The drawings are the pictures of the finished dish, but the specifications are the detailed ingredient list and the step-by-step instructions. You need both. Now, you might be wondering how pros keep track of all this, sometimes hundreds of pages. It's not just a random stack of paper. They use what's called the U.S. National CAD Standard. See, each type of drawing gets its own letter. A for architectural, S for structural, E for electrical, and so on. It's a simple, brilliant system that keeps everything organized so anyone can find what they need instantly. All right, every profession has its own language, its own lingo, and construction is no different. So in this section, we're going to learn the basics, the essential vocabulary you need to know to create plans that are actually clear and don't cause confusion down the line. You know, when you really boil it down, any good drawing, from the simplest to the most complex, depends on just three things. You need accurate dimensions, you need the correct scale, and you need clear, concise notes or annotations. If you nail these three, you are well on your way. Okay, let's zoom in on scale for a second, because this is so important. For most residential floor plans you'll see, the scale is going to be 1/4 inch equals 1 foot. It's the industry standard, but what does that actually mean? It means we're working with a ratio of 1 to 48. In other words, any object you see on that piece of paper is 48 times bigger in the real world. And here's the simple math behind it. Every 1/4 inch on that drawing represents 48 of those exact same 1/4 inches in real life. And what are 48 1/4 inches? Well, that's 12 full inches. Or, you guessed it, exactly 1 foot. Once that clicks, the whole idea of scale suddenly becomes way less intimidating. Okay, we've got the language down. Now, let's actually start putting together the plan set. We're going to walk through the essential pages that you've got to have to get that permit. So, while a full professional set of drawings can be huge, these 5 are really the heart of any residential permit application. We're going to look closely at the first 3. The title sheet, which is basically the cover, the site plan, showing the whole property, and the floor plan, showing the layout. The other 2, exterior elevations and the foundation plan, are just as crucial. They show what the house looks like from the outside and how it's actually anchored to the ground. You have to get all 5 of these right. Step 1, the title sheet. And this isn't just a pretty cover page, okay? It's the project's official ID card. Building departments, like this example from Hawaii County, have a checklist. They need to see the project info, the owner's details, the official tax map key, the address, and a little map showing exactly where it is. All the vitals have to be right there on page 1. Next up is the site plan. This is that bird's eye view, showing how the new building fits onto the land. And the plan reviewer is looking for very specific things here. They need to see how far the building is from the property lines. Those are called setbacks. They're also looking for things like where the driveway is, where the utility lines connect, and of course, that little north arrow so they know the building's orientation. And now we get to the one everyone knows, the floor plan.
But a floor plan for a permit needs way more detail than one for a real estate brochure. The building department needs to see exact dimensions for every room, what each space is used for, like this is a bedroom, this is a kitchen, and the precise location and size of every single door and window. Even the plumbing fixtures have to be shown. Every detail counts.
Okay, we have covered the technical stuff. For our last section, let's get into a little bit of strategy. This is the kind of hard-won wisdom you only get from people who've been through this process time and time again. Now, check this out. This quote from a user on the Chief Talk forum sounds totally backwards at first, doesn't it? Give them less information? What's that about? Well, here's the genius behind it. A plan reviewer has a specific checklist of things they need to verify for code compliance. If you flood the drawings with extra notes and details they don't need, you're just making their job harder. You're creating clutter. And that makes it more likely they'll either miss something important or, worse, find some tiny, irrelevant detail to question you about. The goal is clarity, not just dumping information. But really, out of all the advice you'll ever get, this is the absolute golden rule. Every city, every county, every jurisdiction is a little different. So before you even think about drawing a single line, go to your local building department's website and find their official permit submittal checklist. That document is your holy grail. It tells you exactly what they want. So at the end of the day, you have to remember that your plans are so much more than just lines on a page. They're a communication tool, they're a legal document, and in many ways, they're the very first contract of your entire project. So the question you have to ask yourself is, are they telling the right story?